to think about next season, and next season we want to feed our soil again. So it's a continual process. So we're going to be clearing rows out. We'll be pulling and rolling up the irrigation hoses, and I'll teach you how to do that. And we're going to plant cover crops. So there's lots of information about cover crops in this book. This is that Garden Publications book that resides in our little information center. And there's tons of reasons to plant cover crops. One is to add lots of organic material back to your soil. Feed your soil will feed you. Ours certainly is doing well. For those of you that have been in the garden for a number of years, isn't it amazing what we went from the sand pile to, you know, really highly productive, very alive soil system. So our cover crops, our compost, you know, tilling as little as possible, all of those things help with growing the life in the soil. So cover crops are really important, particularly, well, anytime you have sand, clay, anything, because it does add that organic matter back to the soil. So we will plant those as the rows clear out. It's very simple to plant. There's a variety of different types that you can plant. For summer, if you were laying your rows fallow, their summer is a buckwheat, and that is frost sensitive, so that would be a summer cover crop if you wanted to like have a row that you were just going to leave it in between crops, or you wanted to just really recover the soil. This is a Garden Way mix, and this is what a lot of people use. It's got ryegrass, Austrian winter peas, vetch, and crimson clover. And so this is kind of a nice mix that you can use. Because it has the vetch, and ryegrass, it requires a lot more tilling and turning over. I prefer to do crimson clover or the Austrian peas. I didn't get the Austrian peas out there in a separate bucket of their own. But I think it's important for us to try a little bit of each so we kind of can learn about how it is to work with. But I would encourage you to use the Garden Way, but not exclusively. So crimson clover, Austrian peas. And then last year, remember we did fava beans. So any of the legumes, these are the fava bean seeds, any of the legumes really fix nitrogen. And so they're great to plant in an area that you're going to not sow your summer crops until late spring. So for instance, all of your cucurbits, your pumpkins, squashes, cucumbers, those don't get planted until late May. So you could put your fava beans in, they'll grow up enough to really create a lot of foliage. And you can, if they're left long enough, and depending upon how warm and dry our spring is, you can also harvest your fava beans. We did lay 2 of those garlic boxes fallow last year, and I'm thinking a couple of the ones that are back by the quack shack, we should do fava beans because we can just let those go. They don't necessarily need irrigation. And then we can harvest, because who liked the fava beans that we ate? I thought they were pretty good. They're very labor intensive, but you know, they're a good crop for adding a lot of nitrogen to your soil, as are the Austrian peas. So if you want to learn more about cover crops, there's lots of information in here. Of course, Mr. Google, he always has lots, or she has lots of information. But I highly recommend that you get the rows in your respective plant family teams, get the rows cleared out as we finish with the food production, rake it out. In fact, let's go out now and I'll show you kind of how we are using some new pipe to collect and roll up our irrigation system so that the hoses are organized and protected, because you don't want to crimp them and kink them and all that. Okay, great.